Hey everybody, Marcus here. Now, I remember back in 2014 when the manosphere was more or less composed of only three factions. Each of these three factions had their own solution on how to proceed in relation to the male female dynamic. The MRAs were interested in pursuing legal and political reform. The PUAs decided to just ride the wave of degeneracy and teach other men how to do the same. The MGTOW solution, in turn, was simply not to play. Well, today, the manosphere looks quite different. The number of factions and sub-factions has grown. The MRAs are all but extinct. MGTOW as a term is no longer in circulation, and I suspect this is the case because relationships are now assumed to be a form of opt-in thing. As in, it seems to be the case that the youth are MGTOW as a default position, and from this default position, some choose to opt into relationships, while most actually choose not to, or for that matter, can't. Incels appeared on the scene much later than the initial three factions. Incels in turn rebranded to the Black Pill, which has its own little subculture, history, and a set of concepts. Now, some of them I am familiar with, while other Black Pill lore and history I'm not really familiar with at all. The PUAs, however, have evolved in a curious manner. Some are now just referring to themselves as red pillars and are still coaching, while others have created a new niche for themselves, a niche in embarrassing women. This video will follow the PUA branch of evolution, as I believe the future of the manosphere is going to more or less be dominated by this original PUA branch. The key thing to keep in mind about the PUA faction is that it always had a very heavy focus on the commercial dimension of things. And people like money. Hence, that faction led to a lot of innovation in the grifting market. Now, whether or not game works is irrelevant. We're not talking about the commercial sale of a game, which goes back to, 1996's release of a book entitled The Game by Neil Strauss. And in all fairness, sale of game goes back a lot further than that book. However, I would say that that book really ushered in modern PUA. Anyways, those of the Red Pill, ex-PUA faction spearheaded the women shaming niche. I mean, Kevin Samuels was a prominent figure, so are Fresh and Fit, and the Whatever podcast, and actually who knows how many others. All of these channels have a similar format, as in, get some women onto the show who are clearly broken and delusional, embarrass them with common sense, profit. Now, this format led to the creation of the Just Pearly Things channel, now rebranded to Pearl Davis. And maybe that's her real name. I don't know. I don't care. In any case, Pearl is special. Pearl is, to my knowledge, the first female star of the woman-shaming video format. There may have been women prior to Pearl who spoke on men's issues, but Pearl made it big on the grift side. And here's the thing. Whether or not Pearl cares about men is not particularly relevant. She is most certainly useful regardless of her intentions. In this community, we have known for a long time that women co-opt male spaces, which become financially viable and socially safe to operate in. I mean, gaming is a prime example. Women shamed gamers until gaming became a multi-billion-dollar industry and then flooded it when it was safe and financially beneficial to do so. We are at the same point now with the manosphere. The manosphere is a sort of cash cow for many. These large shaming channels are making, a lot of money, and women see it. And the women, they've arrived. And Pearl, to me at least, is the first champion of this breed of co-opters. However, in most co-opting scenarios, the female infiltrators ultimately reach for sex as their selling point. Hot tub streaming on Twitch is one example. In the case of the manosphere, however, this won't really be the trajectory of the co-option. I believe that the theme of the female co-option of the manosphere will take the form of what I call the war on the whore next door. Now, hotter women have Instagram and OnlyFans as their grift. Some innovators of this ilk have the trad wife niche. However, in all these cases, sex is the product. Pearl is not selling sex. She can't compete with that product because, unfortunately, she's simply not attractive enough. Pearl needed to compete on other grounds. So, this co-option of the manosphere will ultimately not be sexualized, but in fact the opposite. Given enough time, I believe that average and below average women will figure out that they too can have an army of simps without selling sex. How will they get these simps? Well, through the shaming of the women who are selling sex. Candace Owens is doing this as well as part of her shtick. Now, Candace is of a different class than Pearl, but the grift is the same. So too, I believe there will be a diaspora of personalities who will take up the mantle to sell modesty as the product. And we already have an example of an AI tool which put clothes on pictures of women. Now, that AI created quite a stir. Well, put a woman in front of a camera being catty with other women, shaming them, and men will watch. I mean, it's internet blood sport after all, and Pearl has already proven that it can be done. This is where I believe the manosphere is headed into the future. The manosphere has grown too big, too profitable, and too socially acceptable for such a co-option not to take place. Women already hate other women, so unleashing their inner cattiness as a job, well, it only seems inevitable to me. The shift of grifters I have seen over the years has gone from anti-theism to anti-feminism, which turned into anti-SJWism, and then to the red/black pill. And now I think we are slowly entering the years of the war on the whore next door. So, what more can we really say but sick 'em, girls, sick 'em. Thanks for listening. Go team.